$100 million plus in tracked annual client revenue and over 1 billion views generated. Joshua Lessard is the founder of Content Control, where he helps well-known business owners like Robert Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, and George Gammon create content and turn that content into real business outcomes. Today's conversation, we break down how content converts into revenue, where most creators lose money without realizing it in the first place, and how to diagnose a broken content to revenue system, and what separates content that drives views from the content itself that eventually drives into business growth. Josh, welcome to today's show.
Let's rip it.
All right, sweet. So Josh, just to get started, when you look at a creator's content, what tends to be the earliest sign that tells you this type of content will not convert directly into revenue, regardless of views?
I would first want to see what is the business model of that person. Because if you're building a content strategy for a business, you start with the customer in mind. And in this case, the customer is the viewer. So if you have a real estate company and you are making videos on dating advice, the probabilities of you getting real estate customers is pretty low. So you have to be pretty understanding of who your dream customer is. And it's okay to broaden out once in a while, but the predominant strategy of what you should be doing is making videos for your customers the same way you would make any advertising for that person. If you were going to make a marketing campaign, it's going to be understanding the fears, the objectives, the dreams of the person that you are trying to reach. And you are making videos for that person. And if someone is doing that successfully, it's pretty easy because like everyone says, follow the algorithm. But what is the algorithm? The algorithm is just how human beings, how they respond to the videos that you make. And the algorithm already knows every single word that you already said in a video. It knows everything that we're about to talk about. To say that SEO or something like this or hashtags is going to help boost your video to the right person is just utter nonsense, because we already know every single word that is being said. And YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or X knows exactly who to send it to if you're consistently making videos for the same people over time. And it's going to get in front of those people. It's your job to get them to click on it and to watch it. And that's where YouTube is by far my favorite platform, where we're most successful, where we drive the most leads and the most views, because it's slightly different than the other platforms, where something like Instagram, you don't choose if you watch a video or not, unless you're searching for a recipe or something like that. You are passively scrolling on your feed, and the algorithm is guessing based on what you've past responded and watched before, what you are going to want to watch next. Where YouTube, it's doing that same thing, but the difference is you don't get fed a video where you forcefully watch. You have to choose to watch it, which means the incentives are slightly different. Your number one priority when making a YouTube video is how do you get someone to click on the video and how do you get them to watch it? And that means, what videos do you make? It's videos that are targeting the fears and the desires of your ICP. So it all goes back to who the customer is and serving them to the highest degree possible, the same way you would with your business.
100%. And just to add on to your point, when it comes to tailoring it around the viewer, it sounds like your framework when you approach this is very similar to mine. Mine is called the U model. Why are you making it tailored around the viewer in the first place, not just some person that you want to attract in another country that's not your avatar? So 100% agree with you. So I know a lot of people say like YouTube is really known for the monetization part, because that's where you can get actually views, build up that trust. People have to know, like, trust you, and respect you. So when it comes to just platforms in general, if you were to rank each platform in the regards of monetization, where would you rank all the other ones besides YouTube? Because I'm guessing it's going to be first.
Well, I would say it depends on the business model. And so if you gave me the business model, if you're talking e-commerce, YouTube is not
Let's
going to
do
be the
ecom.
best option.
Let's do ecom.
So e-com, I would say TikTok or Instagram, because for that, you need mass awareness of what you're doing. And all you're looking for is, because to convince someone to buy a $50 XYZ product, they really don't need that many touch points. They actually don't need that much trust with you. And so they can watch one or two videos and be intrigued and instantly buy. And so you want to get tens of millions of views per month. And that is incredibly achievable on short form platform. That is not incredibly easily achievable on long form platforms. And it's much harder to do that. And your conversions are only going to be slightly better. Where it's a substantially better is if you have a high ticket service, where we work with a lot of guys that are raising a bunch of money. And so just last year, we raised about $175 million of equity for different deals. That virtually 85 to 90% of that came from long form views. Even though we had 10 to 1 short form views to long form views, that's because of the high degree of trust factor that you get when you sit with someone for 2 hours. When you make a 2 hour video, you really come to know what they're doing. And so if you have a high ticket service, especially if it involves a lot of trust before someone makes a decision, long form is definitely the best. It's also the hardest. It's also the most time commitment. It's also the most expensive. But if it's a low ticket item, you can just rip short form and absolutely crush it. And so what would you say?
Well, I would add on to your point too with a new upcoming trend, which is live streaming. I found that with live streaming, it's super important because it feels more of the fly on the wall behind the scenes moment of where you can actually see the person. So, for instance, one of the people that I see is working is this new content trend of just recording someone in the car. Let's say if it's a business mode, like person who does, let's say, info, he records himself talking in the car. It feels like you're right next to him, sitting them right next to him, and it feels like you built up so much trust just by seeing that type of short form content compared to flying like talking head. So when it comes to live streaming, I do agree with your point when it comes to long form content is king for conversions on YouTube. So do you offer like assistance for your clients when they do live streaming? Like how is that structured? Is that a service? Can you give me like a quick overview of that?
That would just come part of the strategy. So we will do whatever it takes from a strategy standpoint. We first come out, what do we think the best possible outcome for your brand looks like 2 to 3 years from now, and what does it need to look like? And then reverse engineer what types of videos should you be making to achieve that dream outcome. And a lot of times live streams is a part of the strategy. So for a lot of clients, we do a ton of volume. A ridiculous amount of volume. So we'll do 2 long form videos per week and 1 live stream. So we're doing three total long form videos, and then usually a few hundred shorts per week for a lot of clients. And so then how do you break that down from a strategy standpoint? The live stream would be more topical, especially if there's something that's happening that's a lot more urgent. Editing and all that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is being first mover. If you are the first person to report on the news, you will take the first bite of the apple and you will get the highest outsized returns in terms of views. Where the other 2 videos are going to be more evergreen and more bottom of the funnel to nurture audience and actually convert that audience into customers. And so that just goes down to a more overall strategy. A lot of times, if we're taking on a client that's starting from zero, we don't do live streams because no one watches it. And so it's incredibly powerful, but there's also kind of a monopoly, which is good. Once you build a brand, you can monopolize the live stream because it's hard to breach into that because no one has a reason to watch you. But if you already have a brand and you start, it can be incredibly, incredibly good at nurturing that middle of the funnel audience.
Yeah, raw content is the one of the best leverage pieces of use of your time. It's the raw content itself. It's not the icing on the cake, which is the video editing. The editing just amplifies what's already there. So if it's a bad video, it's just going to look even worse and vice versa. Another thing that I'm seeing is I was listening to a 1 out of 10 podcast yesterday. I'm guessing you're familiar with the software and the company as well. And the guy was, so he, for context, the guest, he did about like 340, 350 million views. And I could easily tell that he was the creator himself because he was speaking like in a script, not just normal conversation like this, not speaking in those clippable moments. So when it comes to your clients, let's say when they're doing live streaming, how do you balance them speaking in those, you could say, those clippable moments versus just raw conversation like this?
You can't you can give speaking coaching to people, but we try and work with people that already have a high degree of speaking information. Like when we took on Robert Kiyosaki, he is a pro speaker, and so he needs 0 tips, and it would be disrespectful to tell him how to communicate more effectively. So we try and partner with people that are already excellent communicators, because if you are terrible at talking, your probabilities of being very successful online are pretty slim. And we really just work with guys that run 8, 9, 10 figure businesses. And most of them, part of growing a business you have to be able to communicate your thoughts effectively. If you can't, you're not going to be able to do very high-end negotiations. You're not going to be able to lead a team of 100, 200, 300 employees. And so we've not had to come up with a situation where we've worked with people that suck at talking. Now, some people are way better at sound bites, but we've moved further and further away from hardcore scripting videos because it is not very effective. We take a substantially different approach where we want it to be as authentic as possible, and it's almost good to have the mess ups when they swear, when they do because it brings more life to the video. Especially now with AI, people can make the most polished videos ever, but that's not how humans interact with each other. So we want to actually breed more of the mistakes because that adds to the video in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree with that point. When it comes to standing out, for instance, for me, marketing is the ability to stand out without breaking trust. And one way to not break trust is just to be true to yourself, and then that is actually shown through the camera. One of the ways that people listen to you is who you are, what you say, and what you do in the video, and literally what's your physical background. So as you can see here, Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, a mini Pikachu, that story aside. So when it comes to your client's background or experience, I know a lot of people are in the financial space, real estate space, but I want to talk a little bit more of when you say you start thinking of, let's say, hey, we're going to work with this client. And let's say they are really good at what they do, they can speak articulately, but their content system is broken specifically around the revenue side. So if you had to diagnose that system in, let's say, 5 minutes, what would be like the first three things you check in order to make sure like what's happening, what's not, and like the three types of questions that you tend to ask?
I would first see what does their sales funnel look like. And a sales funnel is just a series of landing pages that ideally increases your probabilities of taking customers to the end destination of paying you. And almost every single company we've ever worked with, they have a terrible content strategy. I would actually say, without a fail, every single company we've ever worked with has a not an ideal content strategy, mainly because if we work with business owners that are 40, 50, and 60 years old, the people that work inside those companies are 30, 40, and 50 years old. And social media is most certainly a young game. It's you have to live, eat, and breathe it in a lot of ways. And so those people do not necessarily understand what makes a great YouTube video or a great Instagram clip that is mass appealing, and they don't understand what curates the highest degree of curiosity for a title and thumbnail or a video idea that's going to go viral. And then they take a much older approach. Most of the business that was done for these people was they would meet someone at a golf course, they would come into their business office, and they would meet and greet and have dinner, and then they would do some business together. And so they don't even really know what sales funnels are. And so, I mean, it is crazy. We live in this world where we see Russell Brunson and Alex Hormozy and Cole Gordon and all these guys that are saying you have to really hyper obsess over what is your offer, what is the structure of your landing page, how are you going to get the lead, how are you going to contact the lead as quickly as possible. These guys have never even thought about that. And so to think that like most businesses out there that are doing 8 figures plus per year have never because they've grown organically over 30 years of just referral and word of mouth, they've never even thought of a sales funnel or speed to lead or doing a lot of these things. So a lot of it is always just perfecting the basics. How do we make the best video? How do we have a good call to action in the video? And then how do we take them through a customer journey and contact the leads? And most of the time, it's actually they don't even contact the leads that are coming in because they've never thought about that. And so it's really doing things that just mastering the basics over and over again. Have a better offer, contact the leads quicker, and collect as much money upfront from a customer as quickly as humanly possible at all times, and then continuously nurture those leads over time.
Yeah, there are a few points to make on what you just said. It's rating those people who are very wealthy or very like concentrated in one space, 0 to 1, and they feel so grateful for you to get them millions of followers. It just goes back to one of the first questions I tend to ask content creators is not what are you optimizing for, but how are you fulfilled? Like some people's fulfillment can come from those vanity metrics. Some of them can come from tracked client revenue, and a lot of other metrics as well. So when it comes to the getting people to know, like, trust you, and respect you, and taking those concepts from the digital world and applying it to the physical world. Let's say if let's say content performs, it gets views, but it doesn't directly monetize that. What are a few things that you think that a lot of people get wrong when they tend to diagnose this in this space?
So first off, it could just be the kinds of videos that you're making. If you have your business channel where you have a particular audience, a lot of people tend to skew towards the things that they're thinking about. And almost every single business I've ever talked to, they're always thinking about how they can scale their business. And then they naturally talk about that online. But if their ICP is the customer and it's a B2C offer, a business to consumer offer, you teaching people how to scale your business and what you're thinking about is attracting business owners, not consumers. So it's making videos for your prospect and giving your prospect as much value as possible, having a call to action that is congruent with your offer. And it's almost always like there's really not many super easy just tricks that force people to buy. That's what people sell when you see an Instagram ad, that there's a new strategy, that this proprietary strategy works and nothing else does. But that's just a marketing tactic to get you to buy because they're trying to improve their offer. Almost all of it is improving the basics. How do you have a landing page so we know our KPIs? If we have a YouTube video, our lead magnet, and a lead magnet is giving a call to action to a free resource in exchange for your email and phone number. And we know that our lead magnet funnels have to convert at 50% if it's YouTube traffic. So 50% of people that go from a YouTube video to click on the landing page, of those, if there's 10 people that hit the landing page, 5 of them have to give us out their email and phone number. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have dialers contact every single one of those people, and you are going to get on the phone and talk to those people and see where they're at and see what they're best to get sold. And if once you have the data for here's how many people watched the video, here's how many people clicked on the link, here's how many people went from the link to gave me their information, here's how many people took the next step of maybe buying a low ticket offer, here's how many people went through the emails and then actually watched the next video. And then knowing your data and knowing what your metrics should be, then you know what you have to fix. If the lead magnet converted at 20%, then what you should do is you should improve the offer and the value inside of the lead magnet to where it is so good that people need to have it. And once you get it back up to 50%, if people are dialing and then they're not purchasing, maybe you have a messaging issue, maybe you have a nurturing issue. So it's hard to know unless you diagnose what portion of the bucket is going wrong. But I can tell you without a doubt, if you were getting tens of millions of views per month of your actual ICP, and you were actually just focusing on providing them as much value as humanly possible, you are going to have more customers than you can handle. So most of the time, it's still working as much as possible on the front end, and then you can be lazy on the back end and you can still make a bunch of money, which is what happened to so many people that were first movers in the space. Now, you really want to dial in all of the processes. And if that's what we try and focus on at all times, is being super strict and quality controlling every single portion of the funnel and knowing what metrics they should convert at, to where we know what to diagnose as to what could be going wrong.
100%. So I want to speak very briefly about top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, like everyone says. But first, we have to acknowledge kind of two parts of marketing: direct marketing and then indirect marketing. Direct marketing is more of those, I forget the exact, like direct response. And then indirect is like, here's what I do, feel free to join. So for instance, I'm guessing if you're familiar with all the people in info, Ryan Clogg, Warrior Babe, done like 80 million plus in cash collected, probably 100 million now. And with him, he was indirectly marketing himself by saying, I'm not selling you anything, but he was using that to attract top talent for his firm, and additionally, a lot of other networking opportunities as well. I want to speak very briefly about CTAs, call to actions. I truly believe that CTAs do not create new intent. They just funnel the existing intent in the first place. So with you and how you advise your clients to have those call to actions in the video, what are maybe some exact things that they can say for their CTA?
Yeah, so the CTAs are something that we do script out because we think that they're
Gotcha.
very, very important. And that depends on the type of video that's being made. For example, if it is a top of the funnel video where we're trying to attract the highest total addressable market cap of people, we're not going to do a bottom of the funnel call to action. We're not going to go direct to checkout. We're going to do a lead magnet call to action, or a webinar call to action, or a VSL call to action, to where we are trying to get this newer intent audience and further their nurturing cycle of making sure that we collect their information. And so that might just be something super broad. Hey, I condensed everything that I've done over the last 30 years into a 2-minute essay or a 14-minute video that I made specifically for this to help you solve Y problem. If you are this person and you want that problem solved, you can click the link in the description, you can sign up. So you're still being hyper specific, only calling out the people that actually have the pain point that you can solve, and then telling them why they should get it, and then they click on the link and then they know. If it's a bottom of the funnel video where it's something hyper specific problem solved, here's how I scaled my real estate company from 2,000 units to 10,000 units by attracting way higher quality investors, which freed up our capital. So that's something where most people do not have that problem, but the people that do have that problem are very high intent. And so you're suspecting a lower quality or a lower volume of lead, but a much higher quality. So that's where you go direct call to action to sales funnel and get someone on the phone and try and close them. So it depends. That goes down into video strategy, into the types of videos that you make. And then the call to action, you still want to treat it like it's a paid advertisement. A paid advertisement, you want to be as specific as humanly problem and just call out the exact person that you're trying to attract, and then make sure that they are problem aware and they click on your ad and they go and buy your stuff.
Yeah, for me, I'm guessing you're familiar with this phrase, is everything's a funnel. And then the second thing is how do you structure the funnel? And then there's so many ways to craft the funnel. And then third is just keep it simple, stupid. I always found that if you just have a very simplistic funnel for let's say a typical buyer, real estate, and if you just march them through 5 steps, it's way easier to find the constraint, find the issue compared to 15 things. More of a personal note, I found there's an argument in this online marketing space of, since algorithms are so good and since the content is now super good, super polished, and there's that increasing gap between who's going to actually win 5 to 10 years from now versus who's not. When it comes to, let's say, content in general, I found there's kind of 2 ways you can approach this. You can go for the millions and convert a few, or go for the thousands and convert the hundreds. So when it comes to trends and upcoming trends, what do you think is one upcoming trend in this marketing space? And then what do you think is one upcoming counter trend in this marketing space?
I think one trend, and this is where I like to take a long macro view. And because we have quite a few clients, we have about 20 clients, we get access to so much data, and then we get to see what's working and then shift a lot of the clients into where the trends are shifting. And so you really got like get this really good sweet spot of you monopolize the data, and then you have access to more resources because we've grown the company a lot. You can see where things are heading and much quicker, and we're still small enough to where we don't have 200 clients where it's hard to move. We're in this really good sweet spot. So what we saw was, I mean, from like 2020 to 2024, there, because of all the lockdowns, of so much of media went from TV to people setting up home studios and starting podcasts and building super professional backgrounds and building this really good in-house studio. But now if you look online, it is a dime a dozen of high income business owners that are making videos that have a super nice background because they see that building a brand is hyper profitable for their business ventures. And so you almost want to zig when other people are zagging. What is doing super well right now? It is in real life content, communicating with the public in some way, shape, or form. And I would challenge anyone, who is someone that has a professional, super well lit, really high end backdrop that blew up from 0 to 1 million in a year? It's going to be very hard to find someone that's blowing up, that's becoming the most popular person, because there's always a few people that are ahead of everything that are getting the first bite of the apple. So what is getting the highest outsized returns? It's people that are communicating with people in public. If you look at someone like Simon Squibb, he blew up incredibly quickly. Or Dan Martell, I would say the biggest reason for their blowups were their short form content, them interacting with people and leveraging their expertise to get viral short form clips. So that is the trend that we would like to shift to, because one, that's harder to do. It provides a higher quality form of entertainment, and it's so authentic that it hits every single box for it's a high TAM, bottom of the funnel video in a lot of ways. We have a client that has a book and has one of the best monetary models for their business, and really, really good. But 1 in 10 people that buy his book end up buying his program, and his LTV for his program is $86,000. So the question is, how do we get 10,000 books sold per month? It's going to be doing a very similar thing. He's in the retirement niche, so you're going to go up and help people retire real time in person doing IRL content. That's harder to do. It's more entertainment, but it's higher trust, and you get all the advertisement you'll ever need for your business.
Yeah,
What
that's
trends
great.
where do you think things are shifting right now? And I would
That's a
love to
great,
know.
yeah, 100%. So there's a lot of trends. So for instance, for this space, specifically podcasts, I would prefer to do a podcast in person, but when it comes to the travel associated with podcast and guests, online is still occasionally the way to go. In-person content always rips. And then the other thing is when it comes to podcasts in particular, amazing backgrounds. So if you study a person named Elliot Buick or Chris Griffin, the new up and coming podcaster of my age. So I'm 19, I'm still in high school. I think Elliot just graduated. He's early 20. Elliot Buick. And with him in particular, he just recorded a podcast in the California, and with a backdrop of something very similar to the Grand Canyon. And you could just see the sun rise and sunset during the entire conversation. It was a phenomenal one. And I believe that the background is one of the up and coming trends of podcasts. However, in particular, when it comes to marketing or just business in general, there are a lot of upcoming trends. It just depends on what's the biggest trend and how you can go on that one. The
Yeah,
first one
there's
for me,
always and I would say nothing's ever too saturated. And if saturation is almost proof of demand, the worst case is there's zero demand for the type of content that you're making. If there's a ton of different competitors doing something, it usually mean it works to some degree. And so, like everything works. At the end of the day, the most important thing is the quality of the information. And now that I've been around the space for so long, I've worked with so many people in the finance business, real estate niche. I could make the exact same real estate video as my clients. I literally scripted them out. I know exactly what to say, but no one will ever care what I have to say because I do not have a $2 billion real estate portfolio. And so the biggest thing is actually doing the thing. And then if you have the audacity to teach it after, then you can have the outsized returns. Like Warren Buffett, what he says is so simple. I could make the best investing channel just doing exactly what he said. And the problem is, I have not invested and made $100 billion. So it's doing the thing and then having the expertise that of the trial and error of actually making it happen. And then there's opportunity in every single space.
yeah, 100%. And so the people that you kind of work with are what I call legacy educators. So there are a few people in the space in particular, whether it is Robert Kiyosaki, but a few other people I've either had a very brief interaction with, etc. Brandon Dawson, the business partner of Grant Cardone. Mark Victor Hansen, who is the Chicken Soup for the Soul series author, sold over 250 million copies. And
Do
what
you know Mark? I'm good friends with him. Do you do his stuff?
I view him, he followed me on Instagram for some reason, just for funsies, but I think I'm mutuals, but my network is mainly in, of course, marketing and then tech. Like I know people from multi-billion-dollar companies, spoken to so many great people, but don't know Mark specifically. Just he followed me on Instagram just for fun. I don't know why. Maybe you could
Yeah.
ask him, but don't
No,
want to pull up that
no,
all that trust.
yeah.
So,
He's
uh,
also in Scottsdale.
oh yeah, and I saw that when it comes to his company location. Another trend is having, let's say, these podcasts to be very interactive and very you focused, i.e., the guest or the viewer. So I think now Josh would be a fantastic time to do a breakdown of one of your existing clients, Ken Minnick or I. So feel free to share your screen whenever you're ready.
Yeah, what particularly do you want to break down for it? I can share my screen here using it, pull it up.
Yeah. So I
So
want
I have the
to.
back end up right here. And so right now we do predominantly long form videos. We do about 1 million views per month. And we would prefer our sweet spot is 1.5 to 2.5 million views per month, but we've been doing a ton of bottom of the funnel videos recently.
Yeah.
And
Sweet.
then we do about $10,500 a month from just ad revenue. But let me go to his actual channel, and I'll go over his content strategy and what we
Yeah,
do.
feel free. And then I want to specifically address the onboarding process of when you were working with Ken when he first got started, because I know I briefly hinted at it when it comes to like the questions you may ask for a client. Let me just add this to stage real quick so everyone can see. Okay, so feel free. So actually, I had a previous client and they did an intro to themselves in the real estate space. They run and manage over $140 million in real estate. So nothing as crazy as you with Ken, because I know he's very well known in this space. I took the intro video. This was months ago, so I've gone way better since then with intro video specifically. I took Ken's intro video, I think like months or years ago, took the transcript, plug it into Claude, had said, hey, write me the script, and then took all my other scripts that were relevant to Ken. So I'll have to pay a royalty for that moving forward. But feel free now to break down his strategy. Just give a quick overview for the people who don't know who Ken is. And then we're going to cover like the onboarding process of
Yeah.
how you onboarded Ken and his
Yeah.
team.
So I originally started with a different guy in the space. His name was George Gammon, and I was just doing macroeconomic research, but we were trying to grow online. So I wanted to figure out the YouTube side, and once I figured that out, his channel grew really quickly, and he's friends with a lot of these other people. And so I went up to Ken and I was like, "Dude, your YouTube channel sucks," because Ken's a super fun, friendly guy. So I was just telling him like, "This is terrible," and I said, "Let me prove it. Let me just take over, and no real risk to you." So
Yeah,
Ken just had a pretty similar. This is how a lot of corporate brands look. They keep the same color scheme. They just keep
I
it
do not
kind of.
like that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And his views, like, so Ken, he has a 10,000 unit real estate portfolio. He has 300 plus employees. He's grown a super legit company, but they were not doing very good online. And so I actually didn't change anything at first. Oh, I only changed three things. I just changed the hook of what the video was before he would spend too much time introducing himself. So I changed it to where we were proving what the video was going to about. We were giving the viewer a promise of what they were going to get, and then they were adding credibility. So Ken would confirm why they were clicking on the video, and then add to the curiosity of what they were going to get to the video, and then why they should listen to him. And then I changed the titles and thumbnails to where what I did is added to where they made a lot more curiosity and tension and a reason to watch. And honestly, the first video we did, we went from getting a few thousand views per video to a few 100,000 views per video. And I would not say that is because I am some genius. I think the vast majority of it is because of who Ken is, and Ken has so much credibility, and he was doing it for a long period of time. And so now, what the strategy is, it is. I mean, I've been working with him for a long time now.
Yeah.
It's we do three videos per week. One of them is a live stream. The live stream is doing something topical where Ken was just at Berkshire Hathaway this weekend with Warren Buffett, and so we did a live stream on what Warren Buffett was seeing and how that changes and Ken's investment thesis that we just did today. But so the live stream is the most topical thing that's happening in the news right now. The evergreen videos, or these are lower TAM, higher monetization. Our goals with the channel are predominantly to get new investor emails that are potentially interested in investing in his deals. And because we track everything, we know exactly what videos bring in the most leads. And so this video, nobody's prepared for what's about to happen. This video has brought in 45 investor leads, which is really good. Well, it's just like you see the number of 45,000 people watched it, but what does that mean for monetization? The minimum investment is $100,000. So if all of those people invested, that would be $4.5 million that was made from that singular video. And that's just that one video. We also have a lot of other videos that we're doing. So I'll just show you guys the back end really quickly. Because we're doing two evergreen videos and one topical video, we spend a lot of time on the pre-production, the strategy, what video ideas are going to be had, and then how do we make it as easy as humanly possible for Ken? Because Ken's highest priority is running his company. It's not making videos. Even though the videos
100%.
now make a lot of money, we don't want him to just spend 20 hours per week. So we try and get it to
Mhm.
where he spends 2 to 3 hours per week recording, and that's it. And that does all the videos for all the week ahead, and some left over. And that's what we've done. And this is a pretty similar strategy that we'll use for a lot of other clients.
Yeah, that's great. And first of all, I appreciate you for being super transparent when it comes to these things, when it comes to just sharing the dashboard, because I know a lot of people love to keep their sauce, their secret sauce secret. So another thing too is I'm very familiar with another competitor, you could say, of Ken Pace Morby, and Nick Fisher, great guy, spoke to him very briefly before, is the kind of guy behind the scenes for Pace Morby. So I'm guessing how many offers, high ticket offers, i.e., above 3 grand, does Ken have? If you can share.
Um, we don't really sell info. So we have a live event that we do once a year where my company does all the marketing for, called Limitless Expo, where they bring 2,000 people in. But it's not like Pace, where Pace has a very built out back end for different monetization layers. Ken has invest with him, and they go, and like Ken's company, he buys apartments, and he
Yeah,
sticks to
I
buying
think Pace has
apartments.
that too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but so we do not sell a lot of info. We'll do like a spew off for real estate investors looking to scale. We'll do like we just did a mastermind for 20 people. He has another mastermind that I think is $35,000 per year, but he never talks about that stuff. He never
yeah,
promotes it. All he does is make videos and raise money for his bigger deals.
100%. Okay, so then to transition to a little bit more of the onboarding side, can you walk me through, like, to say the first 3 questions that you asked either Ken or his team?
Right now, if we're onboarding a client, the number one thing that we want to do is understand how they make money to a very high degree. A lot of people, they'll be very broad about how they actually make money and what their business does from a servicing perspective. And so being confusing does not help the marketing team that is in charge of getting you leads and closing you deals. So the number one thing is going to be, we have to understand so well who the customer is and what fulfillment actually looks like for those people. So we know the people that we can help, and we know who we're trying to help with the videos that we're making. And so need to understand that to the highest degree possible. Depending on if they have other content out there, if someone is completely starting from scratch, then we need to understand their full story as to how they got from where they were to where they are today, mainly so we can pull the best possible videos from it. But it depends on the offer too. So if
Yeah,
someone has a B2B offer, your story doesn't really matter. It's only what you can provide. So what I'm saying will change depending on the client and how TAM of the potential videos that are being made. So what, like, there's no all in be all, but the
yeah,
others are going to be, what do they like talking about, and then what style of videos do they enjoy, because we can build a strategy around anything, but it's only as good as the person recording it. And some people hate making certain kinds of videos, and you're not going to change that about that person's personality. And so some people love doing reaction videos, some people hate it, some people would not dare do an IRL video of going on the street and talking to people, some people will do it. And so we are really building out, here's what we have from our dream outcome, in alignment of what their brand should look like 3 years from now. And then reverse engineer, like building a KPI list. What should our monthly deliverables be? What are the weekly deliverables? And then this is a teamwork. If you suspect that someone is going to, a marketing company is going to come over and take over your brand and you're going to blow up without any input of your own, it is very unrealistic. It is very unlikely. You, the person on camera, is the one that actually has to put in the vast majority of the effort. So do you actually have time? Like you have to commit to us 3 hours per week that you are going to that you are going to film. We are going to make your lives as easy as possible, but only as easy as we can humanly do it. You still have to be the one on camera. You still have to come with some energy. You still have to do a lot of the things that we're requesting to make this work, or we're just going to be throwing sand against the wall. So
yeah.
that those are the main things that we're going over, and then be making sure that we're aligned to where if a lot of people will do their yearly planning, and in your yearly planning, what you're doing is you're saying, what does this year look like from a successful standpoint 12 months from now, and then breaking down, okay, well, that means what metrics do we have to hit every single month to achieve that our yearly goal? Okay, we know those metrics. Then what do we have to do on a day-to-day basis to get to those monthly metrics? And then you have your weekly KPIs, and that's just like a very natural things that companies do. So we try and do that exact same thing with our clients to where they're thinking long term too, because building a brand does take a long period of time, and it is an every single week commitment from both parties as to what needs to get done.
Yeah, 100%. And just to kind of add on to your points, I believe like the three parts of value you can bring to anyone, whether it is a conversation like this or a conversation with a potential client or a client, is the three things you deliver are context, skill set, and mindset. Context about them, their industry, etc. With AI, way easier to be done now. Skill set, deliverables, the outcomes that you will be getting. With AI, way easier to be now. And I'm about to be very top of the funnel for this podcast, so beware. Mindset, one of the most important things. AI cannot replace your mindset when it comes to these things, and like how you act, how you prompt the AI, etc. So I truly believe those are like the three things when it comes to how you can stand out and how you can add value to the marketplace. I want to add on to your point when it comes to the questions you're asking. The few questions that I tend to ask that I believe can be the same for all clients is first is just goes back to what I said earlier of like what are their motivating factors, like what's the reason why they're doing business in the first place. And when it comes to that, you can easily find how they track that to get to their goals, whether it is, like I said, the vanity metrics, the revenue, the impact, the fulfillment. But the next more business content related thing is like what are you optimizing for in the first place, the money, the views, or a mix of both. And of course, with both of those things, you have to find the perfect balance for that. So it's kind of to wrap up today's conversation, Josh, I want to speak a little bit on reporting and how you run your company, Content Cartel. So for transparency for the viewers, while I was doing my research for Josh, I stumbled upon his YouTube channel and I found some of his videos. I subscribed, so you're welcome. When it comes to the monetization and how you are more directly and indirectly marketing yourself when it comes to all the other content agencies out there. So if you could describe in three, like just a sentence of what makes Content Cartel stand out from all the other content agencies out there, what would that sentence be?
The constraint of agencies is not lead gen and getting clients. It is your access to talent to actually do the work that you say you're going to do. And for us, it's always been super easy to get clients because we just do what we say we're going to do, and we hyper prioritize over the customer experience and the results. And that means every client brings you three more clients. And that's how you know you're doing a good job in the agency world. Your constraint should always be hiring and training the best quality people. And so it's really do the results speak for themselves, and that's all we try and do.
Okay, sweet. So then when it comes to the talent and reporting side, I know of course you just showed me YouTube Analytics. What are some other softwares that you use internally for your self-serve reporting, data, metrics, etc.?
We built all our in-house tracking to know every single video, every single video from every single social platform, which ones bring the leads. To then we use for our CRM, we use Go High Level, but then we just track it all end to end with our own in-house software that would be similar to a Hyros, but we built it in-house.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So one last question. It's about push and pivot. So I know, let's say you have a content idea. You think the content is going to go great. What's your threshold for killing a YouTube video, i.e. taking it down, even if it's working to some extent?
If it's against the brand alignment for what the person's trying to achieve. And so, I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, if we have a brand guideline and a brand vision for a client, we work with a lot of, like, for agencies, you're always going up market unless you want to be the cheapest option, but no one wants to be the cheapest. But if you do, you start and you finish that way and you have the best optimization. That's not where we want to be. We want to be the best. And so you're always charging more and you're always going up market and working with higher leverage businesses. And with those higher leverage businesses, we work with some publicly traded companies. So that means they have a super strict brand guideline that they want to start with. And if you are like something like Bud Light, you could get something mega viral, like turning gay, which is what they did for a while, but that doesn't necessarily appeal to your ICP. So views there were hurtful, and it was hurtful for their brand image. And so understanding the brand, and if we ever do something that is off brand guidelines, which of course it will happen, it's you just take it off regardless of how it's performing.
Gotcha. All right. Today has been a phenomenal conversation with Josh Lessard. Appreciate you joining the Content Operator Podcast.